Alderperson, a member of the League of Women Voters of Metro St. Louis. And on behalf of the League and the City of Bellefontaine Neighbors, we'd like to welcome you to a forum for candidates seeking election to be Alderperson for Bellefontaine Neighbors. And I am pleased, we're very thankful for the assistance of Marcy Gooden for helping us to arrange everything. Let's give Marcy a tick. She's still working. I'd also like to thank volunteers from the League. Barbara Harris, raise your hand. Linda Hanson, Jill Brown, Janet Markham. Where's Janet? Now Janet is going to play a very important role. She's going to be the timekeeper, and she will, okay, so she'll hold that paddle up, and we will ask our candidates to adhere to what the paddle says. 30 seconds on stop when your time is up. So we want to thank the candidates, of course, for participating in the forum this evening. Just before I get into other stuff, I'd like to just make a little pitch. I can tell by the fact that you are here that you realize your vote matters. And that's indicated by your presence here. And of course, you realize that voting is a way for you to have some control over the governmental decisions that affect your family, friends, and community. Your vote can influence the taxes taken out of your paycheck, the air you breathe, and the education that members of your family receive. Many elections, especially local ones, are decided by only a handful of votes. And I'm saying this because this year, more than any other year, voting is so very important. As you know, the political parties decided to hold their presidential primary selection process in a different way this year in Missouri. And of course, the Libertarians had their process on February 24th. The Republican Party had their caucus on March the 2nd. The Democrats will hold theirs March 23rd. It is too late to participate in that in advance by mail. But you can vote in person on March 23rd if you are a registered voter. And you can go to, and I think the voting is like from 8 to 12 noon or something like that. You can go to MissouriDemocrats.org to get a list of places where you can vote. Now, that primary is run by the Democratic Party. It is not being run by St. Louis County election authorities. Okay, do you understand that? All right. Now, the big primary that will be run by the election authorities will be August 6th, 2024. And so that's a date you want to jot down. You don't want to forget it. August 6th, 2024. And then, of course, the general election, November 5th, 2024. And we know this is a very, very important election, right? Right. So we are not going to forget it. And you've got to make your voice heard, so make sure you put those dates down and vote. Okay, so I'm going to go on. I don't want to take up too much time. with my pitch, but I felt it was very, very important. So, I understand that we have 8 candidates running for 4 seats on the Bellefontaine Neighbors Board of Aldermen. 2 are seeking re-election. Okay, now, the League believes that one of the best ways for voters to learn about people seeking election is to hear candidates speak and answer questions in a civil public forum. Many say that civil discussion of community issues is impossible now since we are so politically divided. But I don't believe that. I know you have come tonight because you care about your city and you want to make a reasoned decision before you vote, right? Right. Now, the following rules will enable us to work together tonight to make that happen. So, the candidates will have 2 minutes each for an opening statement. Then they will have 1 minute to answer each question. They have the right to speak to all questions, including those posed specifically to another candidate. They will have 2 minutes each for a closing statement. Now, I want to make one thing perfectly clear. This is not a debate, so they will not be debating each other. They will be answering questions. Each one will answer each question, and their answers will be directed to you, not to each other. Okay? You understand that? So it's not a debate among themselves. Okay. Now, the audience will submit questions of general interest directed to candidates on cards that have been provided for you, and the cards will be collected. You just have to hold your card up, and one of the volunteers from the League will come to pick up the cards and make sure they get to me. I, the moderator, will retain the option to combine questions that are similar or address the same topic. I will ensure that each candidate has an equal opportunity to answer questions. I will enforce the rules. So when it's time for a candidate to stop, I will politely assist them in stopping. Audio or videotape recordings may be made of this meeting. Now, the League determines which questions will be asked, and we will attempt in good faith to cover areas of interest expressed by the audience. One more thing. We are honored to have the presence of the mayor here of Bellefontaine Neighbors. Mayor, would you raise your hand? And your name is?
Reverend Dinah Tappan.
Okay, so let's welcome the mayor. All right, let's begin. Well, and I forgot one very important thing. We need to introduce the candidates to you. So we have Ms. Wanda Lane. Raise your hand. Great. Mr. Wesley Gillespie. Raise your hand. Mr. Michael Weesey. Is that correct?
That's very good.
Oh, good. Okay, I cheated a little bit. Marcy told me ahead of time how to pronounce it.
First time in 65 years.
Okay. And I have to say, Ms. Lane is running for a seat representing Ward 1, and Mr. Gillespie is also running for a seat representing Ward 1. Mr. Weesey is running for the seat to represent Ward 2. And then there was Theo Brown Sr. He's not here with us. He's also running for Ward 2. James Thomas Sr. running to represent Ward 3. Huh? Re-election. Okay, thank you for that. Ms. Carla Hudson running to represent Ward 3. Ms. Elise Dales, running to represent Ward 4. And Mr. Bryant Nelson, Ward 4. Okay. Ms. Dales, did I pronounce your last name correctly?
That's fine.
Okay, very good. All right, so we will start with Ms. Lane with opening statements. You have 2 minutes. Okay, here. We'll just have to pass it on down. We only have one, and we're lucky to have this one microphone.
Okay, all right. Thank you, League of Women Voters, for sponsoring this. Am I coming across? Okay. My name's Wanda Lane. I have lived in Bellefontaine Neighbors since 1999. I have been active in our city's politics for, I want to say, the last dozen years or so. When I first moved here, I was working a job that required that I travel, and I was always out of town on Thursdays. So when that changed, I started attending the board meetings. My roots are in the South. I was educated in Alabama in my formative years, and my brother and I were actually the first to integrate our local elementary school. So we were taught at a very early age how important it is for us to participate in our city's government. And that is embedded in me. It is something that I grew up with, and it is it's not an option. It was never an option in my family. It is something that is our responsibility to do. And I have embraced that responsibility in signing up to be the representative for my ward, but basically all of Bellefontaine Neighbors. I am going to be representing everyone, responsible for the citizens in Ward 1. I'm running on the platform of we are one. We are all together in this, and that's what I intend to try to promote. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Wesley Gillespie, and I'm running for Ward 1. I'm a candidate for Ward 1 in Bellefontaine Neighbors. But I first want to thank the Women Leagues of Voters for hosting this forum tonight. And it's a perfect occasion because it is Women's History Month. And I thought that was a fitting time to have this meeting during the month of March. I stand before you in the community, and I'm asking for your vote. I'm not a career politician. I'm a businessman. I was educated at Tennessee State, HBCU in Nashville, Tennessee. I received my master's from Washington University here in St. Louis in business administration. And I have over 35 years, 3.5 decades of retail management experience, and I've worked across the United States, mostly in the Midwest, and recently towards the upper west part of the Midwest, Northwest. With my background, I've worked for several Fortune 500 companies, being Walmart, Michael's Arts and Crafts, Lowe's, and Walgreens. Recently, now I am focusing on my LLC, which I do consulting work in the retail industry, looking at properties and so forth. So I've been in this community for 8 years, and I feel that this community has so much potential for the future, and I'm asking for your vote. I feel that my cross-functional skills can lend aid in getting us there. So let's unlock the gridlock, and I'm asking for your vote on April 2nd.
Good evening again. Looks like the identical crowd, so I won't go into too much depth. I'm Michael Weezy. Thanks to the league, by the way. We all appreciate what you guys do. I am currently an electrical project manager. I came out of retirement last year to build a solar farm I'm working over in Illinois right now. But I'm an engineer by training, I'm a recovering electrician, I like to tell people, because I was an electrician when I was a kid. I was on planning and zoning for years here. I worked with Wanda on P&Z, and I was an alderman for Ward 2 just for a short period. Tommy put me in this spot for up until an election a few years ago. My experience in buildings is really my primary talent here, because I really think we got to take care of our housing and try to increase the value of housing so we can pay for the schools and do the things we need to do with our budget. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is James W. Thomas Sr. I'm currently the alderman for the 3rd Ward, and I'm seeking re-election for my 2nd term. I was appointed in 2019, and I was elected in 2020. I'm father of 6, raised all my children in Bellefontaine, been married to my beautiful wife for 35 years. I'm the elder of my church, where I've been serving for 26 years. I bring to the table, I have achieved the certification of municipal official for the state of Missouri through the Municipal League. I am involved in several mentoring groups where we work with young men to bring them to the place where they need to be. I volunteer of a Riverview Garden School District. My focus is our children and our citizens, our young men who are our future leaders. I bring to the table my experience of 15 years of working with the public through Metro Transit. I was a service manager and I retired 3 years ago, and I'm seeking re-election. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name's Carla Hudson. I am running to be elected on the Board of Aldermen in Ward 3, where I'm a resident, a homeowner. I bring to the table more than 8.5 years working in finance and also in municipal government for the City of Clayton, processing liquor license applications, working in the traffic court. Also, I've worked for 9 years for a local nonprofit, Gateway Arch Park Foundation downtown. I've worked for Girl Scouts. I'm a lifetime member of Girl Scouts and a trainer for more than 30 years. And I've been in volunteerism for more than 35 years. I bring to the table my ability to collaborate and make things happen. Although I have a different opinion, I may not always agree, but I can work together with others to succeed. You know, together everyone achieves more. I hope to be elected in Ward 3, and I'll be serving the community.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Elise Dales, and I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. I've been a resident of the City of Bellefontaine Neighbors for 30 years. Always worked with the community. I'm retired now, retired from Metro. Always worked in customer service, and I bring to the table working with the people, door to door, because that's what our job is, grassroots. I also am a part of an organization that helps individuals within our community to get registered to vote, to learn how to vote, called the Fannie Lou Hammer organization for St. Louis County. Since I've been doing this elected official position, I've learned how to work door to door, person to person, need by need, and that's what individuals in our community seek for. Their home, their privacy, but they want to live in a safe environment, and I'm asking for your vote for re-election for Alderwoman Ward 4, and thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bryant Nelson. I am currently our candidate for Ward 4 Board of Aldermen for the City of Bellefontaine Neighbors. Thank everyone for coming out on this evening. Brief history about myself. I am a resident of Bellefontaine since 2006, of the property owner. My background is over 23 years of financial industry services, and that ranges from a foreclosure supervisor to contract negotiations, contractual disputes, compliance and governance, auditing and controls in those areas, and also financial planning. So what I plan to bring is a financial mindset to the City of Bellefontaine Neighbors. I am a single father of one. I proudly raised my daughter here in the City of Bellefontaine, and now she's away in college on a full scholarship ride, so education is highly promoted in my home. And so I am also a volunteer for many services, volunteering for our senior citizens, volunteering for our youth and education program, and also on the board of directors for a new Cornerstone. And so I believe that in order for our community to thrive, we have to make sure that we are offering services that meet the needs of every individual, whether it's children, whether it's middle-aged adults, single families, or senior citizens. And I plan to do that for the City of Bellefontaine and do it without wavering, do it without personal agendas, but doing it for the community and for the people that reside here in Bellefontaine Neighbors. My name is Brian Nelson, and I'm running for Ward 4.
Okay, so we will start out with our first question, and we'll start with Ms. Lane, and then we'll kind of rotate. I'm sorry. Oh, we'll kind of rotate who takes each question first. And so then the second question, Mr. Gillespie will tackle it first, and I'll try to keep it straight. Okay, so here's the first question. Ms. Lane, why do you want to be an alderperson for the City of Bellefontaine Neighbors?
Well, thanks for asking that question, whoever proposed it. I have been active in my community with my neighbors forever. I have done this without a title of alderperson. I've always been, when the opportunity presents itself, engaged in my neighbors' activities and needs that they have. For instance, I have a neighbor who was at Bellefontaine and Chambers, and there was a high-speed chase. They ran into her yard, tore up all of her bushes. I simply went to Home Depot and asked could they give us some free bushes, and they did. So there have been lots of things that I do that no one knows because I don't broadcast it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, remember, we only have 1 minute to answer each question. That's okay, no problem. Mr. Gillespie, same question. Why do you want to be an alderperson for the City of Bellefontaine Neighbors?
I want to be the alderperson to represent my ward because we only had one alderperson represent the ward last year, and I felt that we were being underserved. I'm on the other side of the railroad tracks, and I believe that in order to serve the wards equally, one alderman on one side of the ward of Ward 1 and another alderman on the other side of Ward 1. And together, the two of us can better Ward 1. As I walk around Ward 1, I feel the constituents' concerns about the vacant homes, about the property not being kept up. And I feel like with my background and my cross-functional field, working for home improvement stores, Walmart supercenters, knowing that lumber industry, I feel that I can be a benefit in working in a collaborative effort with the other aldermen. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to, as an alderperson, I would like to get with whoever's elected and go through some of the old ordinances that were written forever ago and try to figure out how we can update them and do productive things like that. But really, the biggest reason I want to be here is to try to get everybody to get along and just do the basic functions of governing in our city. I mean, that alone is an achievement. So I'm hoping I can bring that to the table, among other things. Do I get those back?
I want to continue to be an alderman and be reelected to the City of Bellefontaine Neighbors so that I can continue to serve the citizens of Bellefontaine Neighbors, not only Ward 3, but the citizens, to bring more programs into the city to help our youth and to help our seniors, and to work on old ordinances and create better or more creative ordinances for these days and times that we're living in.
Hello, I would like to collaborate with the administration and the citizens, restore our bond rating, address problem properties, rebrand, rebuild, revitalize, and have a functional government so that we can do better with assisting our residents and to also work with staffing City Hall.
Hi, I would like to be the alderwoman or be reelected as the alderwoman because I love the people and I love the community. And I like serving them in every way that I can. House by house, making sure that they have the needs that they want, that they're served, that they're safe. And that's why I want to be reelected, because I love the people and I love the community. And we have a great community. We do have laws that we have to follow, but door by door, person by person, and bringing people together. Everybody, it doesn't matter whether you're a renter, homeowner, it doesn't matter. We can all work together.
I'm seeking to be an alderman because I see the need in the community. And I see a lot of needs within the community that are not being met. And so I want to bring a different outlook and a different perspective to the Board of Aldermen. This is a time where we are experiencing a generational change. And so we have to start reimagining how we're governing. And the old ways of governing are not suiting us. And so we have to start with forward thinking, thinking outside of the box, learning how to function in a properly run government. And right now, I see that we're functioning in dysfunction. And that's not something that should be tolerated in our government, and our citizens deserve better than that, and I'm here to run to give better. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gillespie, describe the duties of an alderperson.
Legislate. Legislate. Create new and improve ordinances. Get rid of the obsolete ones. Get the ordinance in compliance with 2024. I feel like we, as alder people, need to listen to the constituents, you, and we need to bring those ordinances that you want in order to govern our city. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Weezy. Okay, I just want to ask members of the audience to refrain from clapping or any kind of demonstration in approval of this, because what happens is it winds up eating up our time, and we don't ask as many questions. So, okay, Mr. Weezy.
We're going to stop clapping right after this. Officially, to amend laws, to write laws, to go through old laws and get rid of the ones that are no longer valid. But I feel really strongly that we gotta stay out of the mayor's business, stay out of the chief's business. It's just not our job. If you don't like what they do in 4 years or whatever their term is, then you can vote against them for somebody else. But we just gotta do what we're supposed to do and then go home and eat dinner.
Okay, Mr. Thomas Senior.
Yes, the duties of an alderman, first of all, is to legislate, but it's also to learn. It's to learn Robert's Rules of Order. It's to learn how decorum is held in the boardroom. It is to create new laws. It is to create and take existing laws and make them better. And it's to partner with our state officials, with our state reps, with our Congress people, with our state senators, with our senators, and work within the community.
Ms. Hudson.
Okay, like the other gentleman said, we have to legislate, but we also have to work with the administrative side so that we can pass budgets, so that we can actually function. We also have to make sure that we are fully staffed. Without a full staff, there's nothing that's getting done, and we cannot provide the services that the constituents and the citizens want. So we have to legislate, but we also have to be able to collaborate and work with all involved.
The duties of the alderperson is to legislate and also follow all the laws of the state and the county. We come together and we create the laws that the people need, that are updated. Some of our laws our ordinances are behind, and we do need to bring them up to date. However, they all collaborate together with the state and the county. So our number one job is to legislate, make sure that we have the funds to manage our budget within our budget. Thank you.
Mr. Nelson.
Just like all my other counterparts stated, that legislate is the priority and the number one function of a board of aldermen. Knowing how to legislate and passing laws and updating ordinances. Also, listening to the public, gauging the public to see what is required from us for them, so that we can have laws on the books, or we can update ordinances on the books that our citizens feel that is needed for this community within the constraints of the Missouri statute, then the St. Louis County statute, and then the local city statute. So our main focus is to legislate, and that is the only part that we should be focusing on, is to legislate our government.
Oh, okay, all right, I'll do this one. So I have a different point of view, and it's because I've been involved, and I've asked a lot of questions. And I've asked them of the officials. I contacted the Missouri Municipal League some years ago, and I got something that was called the Manual for Newly Elected Officials, because it's a whole lot of stuff that alder people and other newly elected officials are to do. Whole lot of stuff. So I can't just answer one or the other. And then I read Missouri Revised Statute 79110. That is the mayor and duty responsibility. The mayor and board of aldermen of each governed city shall have care, management, and control of the city and its finances. So that's kind of a broad answer to the question, but I think that manual will help us, guide us as to what our actual responsibilities are.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am, I was finishing the sentence.
You can.
Could you pass the mic down to Mr. Reese? He's gonna start us off with the next question. Share with us one of your goals that you would like to accomplish in your first 90 days as an elected alderperson. A goal that you would like to achieve within the first 90 days.
The first 90 days, I'd like to have all these people in one room and look each other in the eye and decide that we're going to listen to each other and communicate like adults and respect each other. And because otherwise we're not gonna get anything done. I mean, what we can really achieve legally in 90 days, I don't know, but I think I'm telling you, the biggest hurdle is we have to respect each other and we have to function. There's just too much tension on that board.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, Senior.
Yes, my goal within the first 90 days would be to get the 23-24 budget approved, because that budget was vetoed, and we're operating on the 22-23 budget, which does not allow us to, the board set and the board agreed on the budget for 23-24. And we're not allowed at this point to use those funds as they were budgeted for. And that would be what I would focus on in the first 90 days, and also to create that collaboration that is needed so that the budget can be used and everything can go forward.
In the first 90 days, I would want to immediately work to establish a functional government and collaborate with administration to move forward so that we can restore our bond rating.
Thank you.
For the first 90 days, I would hope that the board would come together and we could get our budget together and we can sit down and talk and get to know each other and understand what our goals are, in which directions we all want to go, and how we want to work together. Each one of us can decide if we want to do commissions, if we want to do the budget, but each one of us understand each other so we can come together and work together with what we have to do with the City of Bellefontaine Neighbors.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
I think I have a very advantageous list of things I would like to do in the first 90 days. First, I would like to have all appointments for our boards and commissions fully staffed. I would like to have the fence ordinance passed. I would like to have a new police chief hired. I would like to have more community events planned and recognized for our community. Also, I would also like to have the elected board members, whoever they may be at that time, that maybe take a weekend and do a retreat so that you can get to know each other in a more deeper level, and we can sit down and hash out anything that may need to be hashed out before we come back to meetings, and that way we can focus on the city's business and we don't have to worry about personal issues that are clouding our views. We already have that situated and we can come in ready to work. As soon as that meeting is open, we're ready to do the city's business.
Thank you. Ms. Lane.
I would like to emphasize the response from Mr. Weezy. I think that training is essential, and we don't have that. It's not mandatory in our position, but as a school board member, we were mandated to take training on how to work together as a board. These are the new things that we'll be presented with, and the MSBA works very closely with the municipal league in providing training for us to understand what our responsibilities are. Because if it doesn't start off right, it's not going to end up right, and we're witnessing that. So all goals should be collaborative. All strategies should be collaborative. Everyone needs to be on the same page.
Thank you. Mr. Gillespie.
First 90 days is just like a new job. You're going to have to go through training. Just like everyone has said about the municipal league, training is a necessity. The next thing is to collaborate and address unfinished business from the previous years, such as the audits, get those completed. Then readjust the budget that we're currently working on, that is a 2-year-old budget. The next thing is to address any outstanding needs, such as a police chief, getting a qualified police chief to run our department, and then get our police officers additional help. We're 13 officers down currently. Then get the staffing up for the rest of the administration to properly run our city.
Okay.
That's the question.
Yeah, the question is, do you think Bellefontaine Neighbors needs a city administrator?
No. And the reason that I say that is those duties right now are being taken care of by the mayor and right now our budget doesn't allow for that expense of a city administrator.
Okay, Ms. Hudson.
At this time, I would say no, we do not need a city administrator. However, I do believe the mayor needs an assistant. Every other director in City Hall has an assistant except the mayor.
Okay, Ms. Dales.
I think we need a city administrator, but we can't afford it. Some cities do have part-time city administrators. I do think that the mayor does need help, a part-time assistant. But yes, I do think we need a city administrator, whether it be part-time, but we can't afford it right now.
I do believe a city administrator is necessity for our city because there are a lot of things that are going uncompleted within our city. And if we had a competent city administrator who's overseeing the day-to-day operations of City Hall, a lot of things that have gone uncompleted would not happen. I do believe there's funds in the budget for it. And I also believe if we're not going to hire a city administrator, I am also in agreement that the mayor does need an assistant because that is too much for one person. And currently our mayor is a part-time, that's a part-time role. A city administrator, if you're asking her to do that and be the mayor, that's too much for one person. So if we're not going to hire a city administrator, we need an assistant for the mayor.
And now, Ms. Lane.
Thank you. I don't believe we have the budget funds for city administrator. This is a quote, bedroom community. We just don't have those kinds of activities, in my opinion, that would warrant a full-time administrator. And if you read the ordinance for an administrator, there'll be other positions that will be eliminated, like the treasurer. And I'm sure we don't want to get rid of, well, I don't want to get rid of our treasurer. But I do agree that the mayor needs an assistant, whatever title we want to give him or her. But a city administrator, no, I don't believe so at this time.
Mr. Gillespie?
I believe right now, we cannot afford a city administrator. However, once we get our city functioning and we become a functioning government, then the resources will increase to where we will need a city administrator. But as it stands right now, yes, we're too small to have a city administrator, but when you look at the growth around our city, we need to partner with other companies, businesses that will allow us to receive a growth that will need a city administrator. And just like the other colleagues have said, if you're a president or a mayor, you do need to have an assistant because that job, it is way too much responsibility. And I'm speaking from a business professional.
I agree. It's a few years ago, I politicked everybody to get a city administrator. I put some numbers together on what it was going to cost, and my argument back then was, if you have a person that's professional at managing budgets, managing people, all the day-to-day things you have to do, I think in the end you'll seek the benefits financially by having a professional in there. Now that I hear these guys talking though, because they may know the budget better than me, an assistant at the minimum. The mayor's got too much work for a part-time job. It does not enough money, it's too much work. Now, day to day, you need a boss. You need somebody you can go to and get advice or make a decision. But then these aldermen gotta leave that person alone. You know what I mean? Let them go do their job.
Thank you very much. Could you pass
That is correct.
Okay. Please share with us 3 qualities your next police chief should have. 3 qualities.
I would say they have to have the education and training, a proven record, and experience.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Dales.
A police chief for me would have to have the qualities to love the community, be able to reach out to all of the people in the community, the children. He or she would have to be someone that the community would go to, would draw to. He or she would draw them in. They should also have the skills as a chief.
I would like to see the next police chief have the experience on the job. I do not feel like we should hire a police chief if this is his first time holding that office. So prior experience as a police chief is necessary. Integrity is necessary. Having the ability to reach outside of the box is necessary. What is not necessary is ethnicity. So we should not be gauging whether we should hire a police chief based on skin color. So if we're going to base that off of skin color, we're putting our city at a great risk for other financial lawsuits. So that should not be considered a requirement for a police chief. Who is the best qualified person? And that's who we should hire.
All right. So on to Ms. Lane.
That's okay. I was just writing more stuff down. 3 qualities. I agree with experience. I also think it's important for the next chief to have a knowledge of the community and a knowledge of the demographics of the community. We live in America, and we live in St. Louis, so we are very well aware of everything that has happened in our communities in recent years. I believe a qualified person who has some knowledge of that would be a benefit, as opposed to someone who comes from a completely 180-degree different background that does not have experience in managing the demographics of this community.
Thank you. Mr. Blessing.
I think a police chief needs to have the necessary qualifications, certifications. They also need to have a proven track record. Again, speaking from a business standpoint, those are the qualities that I would look at. Qualifications, a proven track record, the ability to recruit to reflect the community. I agree with my colleague on the end. Color doesn't matter. Qualifications matter. Examples matter. Showing what worked, what didn't work. That's what I would look for in a police chief.
Integrity and ethics are a big one. They got to have a track record. That's a big deal, obviously. I like the recruiting idea because, like we all have been saying, we're not made of money, and it's hard to get talent. But if you have a guy that works with other people, because nobody wants to work for a miserable boss. I mean, that's just the truth of the matter, right? And since we're not flush with money, as far as I know, we need somebody that's good to work with.
Okay. Mr. Thomas.
Yes, the qualities I look for in a police chief are, number one, he needs to be post-certified here in the state of Missouri. He needs the necessary education and training. As when we were searching for a police chief and we got down to the 2 candidates, both of the candidates had some qualifications, but there was one candidate that I looked at that had all of the qualifications, and he matched the demographics that I'm looking for a police chief for our community. Because just to give you a census number, in 2020, the census counted 10,740 people in 4,349 households. And The racial makeup was 13.28%. I'm sorry, was 13.28% white, was 8,926 African American or of color.
Thank you. All right, so let's pass the mic down to Ms. Dales. I think I can speak loudly enough to be heard.
Yes.
I will try. The city has issues with squatters, renters without proper rental agreements, and slumlords. How would you, as an elected official, help mitigate these problems in your city?
Those issues would have to go through the building department. We have legislated the residential rental, which should combat some of that. The police department has to handle the squatters. You have the board, the elected officials, we have to call those who work for City Hall, this code enforcer, the city inspector, and the police to handle those. The other thing is the neighbors. The neighbors have to report it. When they report it and we can report it, then we can go down the chain to report that issue.
Thank you.
I believe we have to have a fully staffed government to start handling those issues. As previously stated before, we went 4 years without a code enforcer. So we have an enormous amount of issues dealing with landlords, squatters, and renters, and also property owners. So let's not exclude them also. So we have to combat that first by properly staffing the departments that are tasked with handling those issues. We need to fully staff. If we're going to require the police to respond, we need to have a fully staffed police department. We need to have an assistant for our code enforcer. We need to have more bodies in our building department. So we cannot address these issues without first addressing the staffing issue. And once we address the staffing issue, then we can put into place more parameters around these issues that we're having with squatters and all of this information.
Thank you.
It's very difficult to manage people problems, because that's what we're dealing with when we have people who behave in this manner. It's very difficult to manage that. But I agree, enforcement should be the priority, but enforcement can't happen if we don't have enough staff and people to enforce. I recall when I first moved here, my former husband let the grass get maybe 2 inches longer than what it should have, and the police officer actually knocked on my door, which I believe back then, the police officers kind of sort of did some code verification or something. You know better than I do, but you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. So if we need to do those kinds of things again, and we gotta have that if we have the right number of staff. Thanks.
Like similar to everything that's been said, code enforcement, getting the staff, proper staffing, getting the proper staffing for our police department so the code enforcement department can work in conjunction with the police. And then we need to limit the number of rental homes in our community. When I canvassed Ward 1, walking from door to door, it was mind-boggling to me in Ward 1 just how many empty derelict homes we have. So code enforcement, having a fully staffed code enforcement department, police department, and then limit landlords to live within a 1 mile radius in our neighborhood so we can hold them accountable when that house becomes derelict, they live right next door to it.
This is a big one. So back when I was on planning and zoning, we did some math and we were looking at all the various permit fees. The permit fee for occupancy permits needs to be a little higher. And the math we did is if you have enough money generated by the occupancy permits that you could pay for an assistant in the Public Works Department, because they need help over there, and money doesn't grow on trees, right? The problem we had back then, apparently there's been some movement. We were a Class 4 city, so we couldn't do landlord licenses. And that would allow the city to keep track of who owns these houses, where we can get a hold of them, so that Felicia can do her job and make them fix stuff.
I think code enforcement is imperative. I won't mention his name, but when he was around, no matter what happened, you always saw him. And the majority of the time, you straightened it up. And I think that getting back to the basics of home ownership, and when citizens move into our community, letting them know what the expectations are versus just you move in and make sure you get a trash can.
Once again, we must be fully staffed. Once we are fully staffed, then we can begin to enforce. I believe we've got the ordinance in place to handle enforcement, but we don't have the staff and the code enforcer, and we need help.
Okay, so pass the mic to Mr. Nelson, and he will start us off with the next question. What are your thoughts about improving diversity, equity, and inclusion in Bellefontaine Neighbors?
Well, as the statistics was read prior, we are predominantly an African-American community. However, everyone should have the same equal access to everything. It should not be a stipulation based on your skin color. All services should be available for all citizens. At the present time, we have to do a better job at recruiting. If we're speaking in references for diversity and inclusion within our city hall or other areas of employment, we just have to do a better job at recruiting. And one way of doing that is to stabilize the government. No one wants to come and work for someone that is in dysfunction. And right now, Bellefontaine has a name of dysfunction. So if we want to improve on those areas, we have to clean up our house first, so that our house is presentable and someone wants to visit and stay in our house.
I'm not sure I understood the question, but you said,
Improving diversity, equity, and inclusion in Bellefontaine Neighbors.
so are we talking about employees or residents? Because those would be two different questions. Okay, so I don't think that we intentionally exclude anybody. I don't believe we intentionally exclude anybody in City Hall. I don't believe so. Bellefontaine Neighbors is not unique in the sense that we have a difficult time recruiting people to work in all areas, like everybody else in America right now. Lots of places are understaffed and doing a lot of different things. So if there is any kind of exclusion in hiring, I'm not aware of that. That would be something that HR and the HR function would have to address. I'm just not aware that we have that problem in our city hall.
I think when you look at our community as a whole, if you were visiting or you're transferring from an employer, brings you in from out of state, you come right through Bellefontaine Neighbors because it is close to Interstate 270. You can get to various parts. In order to get that diversity and that inclusion, we have to have a safe neighborhood in order for someone to purchase a house. That's where you have to limit the amount of rental properties because people bring children into our community. They want to move here. So if we want to have a diverse community, an inclusion community, we need to make sure that it's safe and presentable. And then people of all colors will want to move here. and I think we take advantage of the things that are happening around our community, such as the St. Louis Zoo expansion. There will be visitors coming here, and if we look appealing, we will get all kind of diversity and inclusion.
All right, I have to talk fast because this is my favorite old story. When I was a wireman, we moved Malcolm Bliss Psych Hospital from South St. Louis up to on Union and Delmar up in there, right? So we had X amount of minority participation. So I got this kid named Cedric, and he came to work for me as an apprentice in the IBW, right? So he's got good wages, he's got health care. And that kid and I became best friends over the years. I helped him learn how to be an electrician, but I also helped him learn how to get to work on time and take care of his girlfriend that he had at the time. And now he lives in Hazelwood. His grandma lives with him. He's got 2 cute little girls. I mean, we got to give people opportunities. You still got to get the job done and do it right, but you got to give people opportunities.
I think as our community has become diverse, then we have to continue to show that diversity. And our police department doesn't show that diversity at this time, but I know that it will. I know that it will, given the time and the hiring of the correct police chief that can correct that diversity. The equity and inclusion, I know that when we do contracts, we include that in our contracts, that it has to have a certain amount of minority participation in the contracts in order for the contract to even come through the city. But as time goes on and those things do come and the zoo comes and the NGA comes and the people begin to see how great Bellefontaine is, then they will move in and we will see that diversity.
Based on my work in human resources and all my training in DEI, we must first be inclusive ourselves. We must first clean up what's going on in City Hall. We have to be attractive to make people want to work in our city and to want to live in our city. At this time, since we don't have adequate staff, adequate policing, those are all negatives that's going to make people run into the other direction. So we must first have to do better. And the fact that we're looking for a diverse police chief, we're never going to get anywhere because we are still stuck in that same mindset that they have to be black to work as a police chief. We need someone qualified. We need to forget about this, being diverse and, live in the community. That has to change. We have to move along with the times.
Well, I remember when we couldn't even live in Bellefontaine. And that wasn't long ago. I think we have a great city. And I do think the staff does work together. In order for us to have diversity, it's the neighborhood. It's the neighbors. We have to make sure that our neighborhood is clean and safe. Then other people will move in. We do have a lot of people of Hispanic individuals that are moving in. In our area, we have all kind of people moving in. So we just have to work daily with our neighbors, keep our city clean, keep working, and they'll come in. And every department needs to be diverse. Because everybody in here, somebody gave us a hand. And we need to give hands out too.
Okay, thank you. So we're back with Ms. Wayne. Be the first one to tackle the next point. What do you think should be prioritized in revitalizing Bellefontaine Neighbors? What should be prioritized in revitalizing your community?
Well, as most of the candidates have spoken, and I'm glad to finally hear, there should be cooperation. And I think the basic thing for me is still everyone knowing what their jobs are, what their job is to manage the city. That's a basic kind of thing. The citizens are always to be a priority, in my opinion. That's our number one. When you look at the organizational chart for the fourth class city, citizen is at the very, very top, or citizen voter. And I think we sometimes forget that. So the priority is going to be the citizen and everything that we need to do to help enrich citizens' lives. That's our priority.
City ordinance, getting rid of the old obsolete ordinances, coming up with future ideas, progressive ideas to match what's happening around our city. I think in order for us to do that, the board, all of us have to work together and talking to the community to come up with collaborative ideas, progressive ideas, which will allow us to meet the needs of our city.
Anybody notice the new sign down at Bellefontaine and 270? It makes us look like we're the real thing. We got to do stuff like that, because then other people respect us. I think we should put one up by 270 and 367. There's a big old hill there. We could say, welcome to Bellefontaine, do cool stuff like that. The mayor's good at this, so I won't preach to her. Training for the aldermen is a big deal. I love ideas for children's programs, because we have that, our rec center. I don't have children. I understand people like them a lot, so they're, no, but seriously, those children's programs are big for the city, and they make a more stable environment. That's good for all of us.
We have to put the citizens first, and that should be our priority. And we need to meet the citizens where they are. There should always be a town hall. There should be several town hall meetings on different projects, on different subjects. Or just sometimes going to the neighborhood. I know in Ward 3, twice a year, I've been doing a meet and greet over at Bissell Hill Park and inviting all the citizens out. And we just sit and we talk, and they give me their ideas, and I take them back and I disperse them to the different departments. And if it's something that I can help them with immediately, then I go ahead and help them immediately. But I do follow up with that. But the citizens first, should be the priority.
My priorities are collaboration, establishing a functional government. We need to get our finances in order, restore our bond rating. Then we need to focus on recruitment and staffing, and then we can have all these programs that's coming up today that hasn't been coming up in a while.
To vitalize our community, putting the people first, seeing what the needs of the people are. And if we install some speed humps or bumps, that will really make everybody happy. Those are some of the priorities that all the citizens talk about. Putting the citizens first, putting down the speed humps and bumps, that will revitalize our community a lot.
I also agree that we should focus on the citizens' needs, but once again, we have to clean up our house first. And in order to start having programs, we have to get our finances in order. We have to start creating and reporting on these different financial reports that are required on an on-time basis, getting our audits done on an on-time basis. When we start doing those things, it will restore our credit bond rating. Then we're able to, if we so desire, to offer new bonds, to do road improvements, to do renovations to our city hall, to do renovations to our community center. But we have to clean up our finances, and money talks. And right now, we don't have the money because we are lacking in our financial department. And so that is a priority.
Thank you. So I think we're supposed to be out of the room by 7:30 or something like that. Okay, so this is going to be the last question, and we'll start with Mr. Gillespie. as a member of the Board of Aldermen to bring the city back to a healthy financial state and in compliance with, I guess, state law financially. What steps would you take to address the financial health, if you will, of Bellefontaine Neighbors?
Okay, it goes back to the audits that we all spoke about earlier in this session. We have audits that are 2 to 3 years behind. We haven't got our audits completed. That's one thing that if I was looking at the bond rating and looking at our city, if we can't get our audits done on time, if we cannot get our budgets done correctly to match 2024 and going into 2025, I don't think that will change the bond rating. We have to get our financial situation under control, get these audits completed on time, and get ready to plan for the budget for the following year. And I think once we meet those obligations, then we can go forward in doing other things, paying bills on time, things like that.
I think there's a few people up here talked about us getting together to talk about certain issues. This is a big one. Our bond rating's a big deal. It makes our city look like a third-class city, and that's bad. Then we can't even talk to developers, and try to develop other tax bases. So I need the advice of the mayor, need the advice of the treasurer and whoever is involved with the money over there, the collector probably, and find out what our steps are. But it has to be a number one priority. I mean, we asked that 90-day question, that's probably on the 90-day list.
I think we need to have a forensic audit, an audit that will be done by the state to allow us to see where our funds are and where they have been going. This would allow us, because it doesn't take the place of our audit, it would only tell us where the funds are, where they've been, and where they going. That would only call for the board to create a resolution and request that from the state. And that would allow us to see exactly where we are. And the 23-24 budget was vetoed. So we're not even dealing with that budget right now.
Okay, I think we all know that we have a dysfunctional government, because by now, all those things should have already been done. We are trying to recover from the past administration. So one of the first things we need to be doing is getting those audits completed, restore a functional government, pay our bills on time. We've had way too many delays. And these are things that should have been addressed prior to today. You had all these years to get this fixed.
The steps to address our financial health is to start in the office of where the finances are. There are some issues there. We need to get a forensic audit to find out why we continue to have the same problems every week, every month with the bills. The forensic audit will show us where our problems are. Yes, we're out of bond rating. That will help us. However, every week, behind the scenes, there are some issues that we continually have. And that's where it's going to start in the beginning with the finances and get it corrected.
Again, we need proper staffing. One person running the finance department is ridiculous. One person writing checks, one person reconciling checks, one person issuing payroll, one person doing the tax collector, one person doing the license collecting. That is ridiculous. And it's a problem when you speak of compliance and governance. You cannot properly say where the money is going if the one person is writing checks, reconciling, and producing reports. So if I'm not claiming someone stealing, but there's no way to prove that it's not doing, because one person is doing all these jobs. So we have to have proper staffing. We also need a board that understands financial literacy, profit and loss. understanding budget planning. Know what we're voting on. Know that your budget is totally different from your home budget. Your bank account is totally different from your home banking account.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lane, you get a crack at, last crack at that question.
All right, and this is a big one, because I've been interested to see some citizens are saying, yes, we need an audit, and some are saying, no, we don't need an audit. I think we need to know where we're starting from before we can go forward. We need a foundation on that. I made a few little notes. What I'm gonna say may not be popular, but it's the truth. Bellefontaine was managed on the Friends and Family Plan for many, many years, where everyone knew each other, and the treasurer had been the treasurer for 40 years. So there's a lot of institutional stuff that has not been weeded out. We need to weed some of those things out. And I am a fan of an audit. We gotta know where we're starting from before we know. We all know we need to hire, we need all of those things, but we gotta have the money in order to do it. We have to have the finances in order to do that. So yes, let's start there.
All right, well, I can't believe where all the time went.
I can.
We're having so much fun. But really, candidates need to be congratulated on great actions. To take no more than 2 minutes for a closing statement, and we're going to start with Mr. Nelson. We'll start in the reverse order this time and give Ms. Lane a little break.
Thank you all for coming and spending this time with us. We are in a pivotal moment of change that is needed, and change that is required, and change that is being requested. And currently, we are in a standstill. We are lock gated where City Hall is not functioning correctly. The Board of Aldermen are not functioning correctly. And we have been experiencing this for years, not just the past year, 4 years, 8 years. This has been a constant in the City of Bellefontaine Neighbors. And so it is time to change. My grandmother said, if the people do not change, you change the people. And it's time for a change in the City of Bellefontaine Neighbors. We expect more as citizens. This is not a hard job to do if you come with the right mindset, if you come willing to roll up your sleeves and do what is right for the community, if you come willing to compromise on differences. Compromise is not a bad word. You're not going to get 100%. Sometimes you won't even get 50%. But you have to learn how to pick your battles and do what is right for the citizens. The citizens and our community is first. We have to move this city forward. Our current board makeup is not doing the job. If you were in an employer and they gave out performance evaluations, the board would fail. How many times are we going to allow the board to fail before we change the board? We need a change. I'm running for Ward 4. I want to be that change, and I plan to be that change. My name is Brian Nelson.
Thank you. I am rerunning for Alderwoman, and I hope to stay in my seat because I care for my citizens. Yes, we do have some issues on our board, okay? But we do work together. At least I believe we work together. It's different when you sit in the seat and you understand what the laws are and what you have to do, doing them legally. We cannot make up rules as we go along. Yes, we do need additional staff, but we also have to live within our budget. Thank you, and I'm glad everybody came out.
Thank you guys for coming out tonight. Well, I'm Carla Hudson. I'm running for Ward 3 for the City of Bellefontaine Neighbors. It's time to stop the dysfunction and move this city forward. We must do better. We as citizens deserve more, and we must demand more. We need compromise and collaboration. I'll work hard for the city. It's time for change, so your vote is needed so that we can rebrand, revitalize, and rebuild. Stop voting out of fear and loyalty and vote to get change here in this city. We are a beautiful city. Oh, sorry. But it is time for change. And I know all of you are just as tired as we are. I've been coming to these board meetings for a year, and this is absolutely ridiculous. We need to get some work done. So let's jump out the gate, vote on April 2nd, and make change.
As the board president, I sit on the board. You know, words will be said, and people will have the right to say words. But I was speaking of someone who just made a comment up here. They, as I sit on the board and I sit in the president's seat to help the board get through the meetings, whether you know it or not, when a motion is made and that motion is passed by a majority of the board members, then that motion carries. That is the way that fourth-class cities operate, and the revised Missouri Statute 79.0110 states that when that happens and there's a majority vote, then it passes. If it doesn't pass, then there becomes gridlock. When it isn't enacted, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm James W. Thomas Sr., and I'm running for re-election in Ward 3. Can continue on with the fight for the citizens in Bellefontaine Neighbors, not only in Bellefontaine Neighbors, but in Ward 3, and for the state of Missouri, because a lot of times it starts at home. And as it starts at home, it builds from there. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for coming again. Did you notice you're all the same people? I mean, the truth is you're the people that give a damn about our city. So I never was a fan of people saying I am Ward 2 only. We all get to vote for every law, everything that comes up on the floor, we all get to vote for it, so we gotta get along. I mean, it just doesn't matter. We're just a teeny little city. We gotta make everything work. Functionality, you know what I mean, I'm beating a dead horse. It doesn't function now, we gotta do something different. I'm an old union guy. When I was a kid, we used to boycott stuff we didn't like, or we'd boycott businesses. I will always show up to vote. If I don't show up to vote and I'm pissed about something, I'll tell you why. I'm not gonna just not show up and then try to blow smoke up your skirt. I'm not smart enough to be, you know what I mean, not to lie to people. I gotta go to church on Sunday.